NBA free agency is coming to a close. We pretty much know what every team is going to look like going into the 2024-2025 season. With that said, we're going to go through all of the teams. We're going to break it up into a few different videos here. And we're just kind of going to go through all the teams here and see what we like, what we dislike, just a preview of each team and see what we think. So, first seed in the Western Conference, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And what can we say about the Oklahoma City Thunder? You know, like this is a championship caliber roster. You have an MVP caliber player in SGA. Like if you have an MVP caliber player, you have a chance to win a championship. This is pretty self-explanatory, right? Then you bring in Hartenstein, then you bring in Caruso. You're adding the defense. You have a really solid center, which I mean, Hartenstein got paid, so I think it's not necessarily like a steal in my opinion. I don't think he was a steal, but he's still a great addition to a team who can afford him right now because this team is really young, so they can afford to overpay someone. Now, I don't even think he's overpaid. I think he was paid exactly what he should be. It's just you didn't get him at a steal, so it's not really that special to me, in my opinion. Either way, you got a good center now. I mean, you could probably run Chet at the four. Obviously, SGA is going to be running the point. You got Caruso off the bench. Like, if you have Caruso off the bench, you are a championship team. If you have Caruso off the bench, that's pretty much it. Honestly, I don't really have a lot for the Thunder. They just have a championship roster, and I think they're going to be competing. They're going to be a top four team in the Western Conference, and that's just what it is. Especially with those new additions, you're bringing in veterans, and you need veterans to win championships. You know, like last season, they were way too young. They didn't have the experience. Is Caruso is he a champion? Did he win with? Yeah, okay, yeah, he did. He was on the Lakers in the bubble. That's right. Okay, so he has championship DNA in him. Like he has a ring. You're bringing this type of veteran, like this experience, to a team that doesn't have experience. That's the only thing holding them back. Is experience. You know, if they had the experience, I think they would have beat Dallas, and then they probably would have ended up beating the Wolves too. Because I mean, obviously the Mavericks beat the Wolves. So if you can beat the team that beat the team, you'll probably beat the team, pretty much. Now the Denver Nuggets. The depth on this Nuggets team has been gutted completely. You lose Caldwell Pope, right? You lose Bruce Brown. I mean, that was the year or two ago, but you're still like you're slowly but surely losing these key pieces that really helped you win that championship in 2023, right? And then you come in and you add Russell Westbrook, right? Now, a Russell Westbrook signing in 2024 is pretty much saying you're panicking, right? Like we've seen it with the Lakers, we've seen it with the Clippers, we've even seen it with the Rockets. These teams will go into panic mode trying to keep their players and ultimately failing in the end. Just like all the James Harden stuff. You've seen the edit of that guy talking about James Harden and how he's the problem and everything like that. Like Russell Westbrook is kind of in that same category. He just is much cheaper than James Harden, so it's a little bit better of a signing than a James Harden signing these days, but still you're kind of in panic mode if you're going after Russell Westbrook, and that's sad to me because I want to see Russell Westbrook win, but when you're going to it, I don't know if I believe in the Nuggets anymore. That's the first time I've ever said something like that, actually. I don't believe in the Nuggets anymore. And of course they have a chance. Of course they have a chance. They have the best player in the league, right? They got Jamal Murray. He's a great two option. You got MPJ. You got Aaron Gordon still. Like you have these key pieces still. Your depth has been gutted, essentially. Once you win it, these days it's kind of hard to win a championship. Honestly, it's hard to win a championship. Or no, it's not hard to win a championship these days. It's hard to win multiple championships these days. Like, even 5-10 years ago, you can be in the championship for years on end. You've seen it with the Warriors, you've seen it with the Spurs, the Heat, or any sort of LeBron team. They're always in, like, you can always be in the running. Nowadays, it's almost closer to the NFL, I've noticed, where when you win that championship, your players tend to get bigger contracts and they leave. And they do what's best for their family, which is fine because you get the ring, now you get the money. You know, it's good for them. And I honestly like that too because we have some sort of variety in the league nowadays, right? We have some sort of, is the word duality the right term? I don't know what I'm trying to say. But what I'm saying is, like, all of the 20s, we've had a different champion every single year. Since the Golden State era, ending in, like, 2018, pretty much, when they won their last championship. Then you have the the Raptors in 2019, the Lakers in 2020, the Bucks, Warriors again, but that was 4 years after, and then the Nuggets, and then the Celtics. And hopefully it's probably going to be a different team. And I like that. I genuinely like that. Honestly, I could make a different video on that, but we don't have to go into depth with that. But maybe it's the Timberwolves next. I'd love to see that. I know I got a Green Bay hat on and we're talking basketball, but, like, the only Minnesota team I dislike is the Vikings. So I'm rooting for the Wolves. I'm rooting for Twins, Wild, all those guys. You know, I don't really have an issue with those teams. Just the Vikings. Speaking of the Wolves, they were a 3 seed, so they're up next. I think this is the year we find out if this is a future dynasty or just like a Sacramento King team from like a couple years ago, where they were the Kings were like a 3 seed and got bounced in the first. I think that was 22. Was that 22 when the Warriors won? I think they got bounced in the first round and as a 3 seed. Like, you get bounced from the third round as a 3 seed, and then next year I think you were like a 7 or 8 seed or whatever. And then this year you just missed the playoffs. It could end up being something like that. But they made it to the Western Conference Finals last year, so I don't think it's anything like that. Hopefully they're not the Western Conference version of the Sixers. Actually, no, the Sixers haven't even made it to a conference championship, and that's in the East. Like, they beat the Nuggets in 7, right? Like, this is a team that can actually win the championship. And all of my buddies that are listening to this right now are really happy that I said that. It's true, though. You know, it's true. They can win a championship. They have the pieces to do it, especially if Edwards makes a leap. Especially if he makes a leap. But it all lands on the big men. I think it genuinely lands on the big men. I think Gobert has been a crucial piece to this team that we thought that he wouldn't have been defensively. I mean, offensively, he's kind of a liability, but back in 2015, Curry was a liability defensively, right? So if you can have someone like that who is just completely elite on one side, at least one side of the ball, that's a crucial piece to a championship team. As for Cat, though, we'll see how that plays out. I mean, I'm still convinced that there's some trade rumors buzzing around for him. I think they need to be at least shopping him, especially if he's making like $49 million a year, which is, I mean, it might not be an issue because I think they're upping the salary cap in the next couple of years, which is going to probably help with expansion teams. I think there's going to be some expansion teams coming at least by the end of the decade. That's another video idea, honestly, that we could talk about. Anyway, I do have a trade idea in mind. I love doing trade ideas, so bear with me with this one if you're not a huge trade person. But honestly, that's kind of what this channel is going to be about mostly. Is a lot of we're just going to go over what could a realistic trade do. I always played my league. I never really played my player or I don't know any of those game modes in 2K. It was always my league or not really my GM, but my league for sure. But anyway, I'm going to talk about a trade, an idea of a trade with the Utah Jazz, a team that the Wolves are really familiar trading with. I mean, obviously they did the Rudy Gobert trade where they gave up pretty much their future for 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. So, but maybe they do it again. But maybe it's kind of the opposite of what they did. I don't know how long ago, a few years ago, I think, when they traded for Rudy. But that's a trade that revolves around Cat instead. So I have them sending Cat and probably a handful of seconds, kind of to balance it out a little bit. So in return, they get Walker Kessler, John Collins, right, and Jordan Clarkson, right. So Collins in there to make the contracts work. He's making the most out of everyone. I think he's making a little over $20 million a year. I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it was around 20. Anyway, regardless, this trade is. I was making this when I was looking at the numbers. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he's the person that makes the contracts work. So that's his side of being in the trade, pretty much. I think Jordan Clarkson being a backup to Edwards, or even just another guard in there with Dillingham, with Conley. Conley's probably on the out. Conley's probably on the out pretty soon. So having that extra guard would be really nice. I mean, I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", so he could even play like a small ball 3 if need be. With Conley being on the outskirt, and then maybe Jordan Clarkson comes in and has that starting role, maybe not this year but next year. And then Rob Dillingham's going to be off the bench for maybe a couple years before he starts to get good. Hopefully he's good. He's pure scorer. I think he's going to be great. Honestly, what I think, it's Walker Kessler in this trade. I think Walker Kessler could really be like a Rudy Gobert replacement, almost. Like, if you're really thinking, okay, what are we going to do for the next 10 years when Edwards is actually getting into his real prime? He's 22 years old. Like, we forget that he's 22 years old. So in 10 years, he's going to be 32. Still in his prime. Like, still in his prime. He's got 10 years ahead of him where he could be winning championships. So if you bring in another 22-year-old, I believe he's 22 or 23, Walker Kessler, and once maybe Rudy Gobert's contract is up in the next couple years, Walker Kessler can be pushed into that starting role, just like how Rob Dillingham is going to be pushed into that starting role. And we're pushing out the vets, maybe bringing them back to the bench, giving them less of a contract, because obviously they're going to be older, they're not going to be producing as much. It's kind of how it goes with everyone. And you bring in Walker Kessler for that defense, for the rebounding, for like everything that Rudy Gobert does. I think that'd be great. He could even be better than Rudy Gobert. Maybe not defensively, but it's just an overall player. I think he'd be really good. The 4 seed last year, the Los Angeles Clippers, complete no man's land. They have like no future, and they have no current either. It's kind of a weird scenario where you give up all your picks and go all in on Paul George, and then he ends up on the Sixers. Of all places. The Sixers, right? And there's nowhere to go if you keep this roster moving forward. No draft picks, minimal young talent to build off of. If everything goes perfectly, I'd bet on them being a first-round exit, right? They're going to end up being a 6 seed, 7 seed maybe? Losing to the Wolves, losing to the Mavericks. Like, they can't compete with these teams, even if they're healthy. Even if Kawhi is healthy, which he hasn't been healthy since the 2019 run in Toronto. So with opening a new arena soon, you have really 2 options here. You keep Kawhi on the board. You keep the former MVP James Harden on the board, right? You keep this roster together, maybe bring in more veterans, maybe bring in more big name players, like maybe Russell Westbrook, maybe keep him on. Just to sell tickets, to make money. Like, I mean, this is a business. It's a business, right? They could go business first and just make a shit ton of money and make the playoffs and compete for the next few years, because what else are you going to do? I mean, you want to at least stay relevant if you don't have draft picks. You don't want to be bad. Like, if you're going to be bad, you better have those draft picks. So you can't be bad. That's a non-negotiable. You should have brought in DeMar DeRozan, but you didn't. You brought in Kevin Porter, and that's pretty much it. You lose Paul George. I think you pray to God that Kawhi stays healthy, and you try to make the playoffs and make some money. Because, again, You don't have draft picks for 6 years. 6 years. Not until 2030. What are you going to do for 6 years? I think Kawhi's like 33 or something like that, right? 34. So in 6 years, you're going to be pushing 40. It's not a good look for the Clippers. So what I'm saying is you either need to stay relevant, stay in the playoffs, even if you lose in the first round and never get out of that, at least you're selling tickets and you're in the playoffs. Or at least you're pushing for the playoffs. Like the Warriors. Or the Lakers. Like you're kind of in the same position as them. I mean, the Warriors are even better situation because they have young talent too. And they have the draft picks. Right? You either do that or you blow everything up. Get rid of every player who's worth a first round pick or more. Right? Go into a new arena with a clean slate, pretty much a fresh start. You get young pieces back, and you kind of have a scaffolding of a great culture, right? You have these pieces building up. You're getting the stone to build the tower, right? You can't just build a tower without any groundwork, right? So if you have these young pieces, I don't really have any trades off the top of my head. Maybe we can make like a short later where we can go through some trade ideas for the Clippers if they want to blow up their roster. Either way, if you trade Kawhi Leonard, you're not getting a lot back from Kawhi Leonard at this point, right? I mean, this isn't 2019 Kawhi. If you traded him in 2019, you're getting a Paul George type of trade package, right? You're getting a Rudy Gobert type of trade package where you're getting like 4 or 5 first round picks and talent and some seconds. Like you're not getting that with Kawhi these days. You're getting maybe 2 first round picks. I bet you get like 2 first round picks and a young player. Just because, I mean, he's not on the court. For the last 5 years, maybe excluding one of those years, 4 of the last 5 years, he hasn't been on the court. I mean, when it matters, I mean. Like, in the playoffs, he's always injured. So, no one's going to actually want to give up their whole future to take a risk on a player who's injury prone. You understand? Like, this isn't a player that is worth anything anymore. I think he's worth being on a team, but if you're not going to give up assets to get him, you just want to sign him in free agency and give him the bag for a year or two and see how that goes. But you're not giving up 4 or 5 first-round picks and young talent for a 34-year-old Kawhi Leonard who's injury-prone. James Harden, another guy you probably get 1 first-round pick for and maybe a young talent. You ship him off to a team who is a contender. I don't think that the Knicks would take him. I think they have their own culture going on over there that he would kind of mess up that culture. But he's messed up every other culture that he's been to, so everyone keeps giving him a chance until they don't, right? Until they don't. Who else do you have? I mean, Zubac, you got... Like, there's not really a lot of talent on this team. Like, it's complete no man's land, and it's really sad to see. So, but anyway, those are the 2 things you do. You either keep everyone on board, try to make the playoffs and make some money, or you gut everything and you start from scratch. And you maybe get some draft picks and be a normal team and try to redo what you did with the Paul George trade, because that did not work out. Honestly, let's cut it there. You know, let's do the first 4 teams. I'll edit this and see how this goes, and then maybe go through the next 4. We got the Mavericks next up, Suns, Pelicans, and Lakers. We could do those 4 next. Have that like a separate video. So let me know your thoughts. Are any of these teams, like, do you think they're actually capable of winning a championship now? Are the Thunder ready? Are they not? Are they old enough and mature enough to actually make a run? The Wolves, are they going to have the pieces together? Is Ant going to make a big step? Are the Nuggets going to have enough depth to make a deep playoff run again? We'll see. And what are the Clippers going to do, right? Are they going to keep the team? Are they going to gut it? I don't think they're going to gut it. I mean, I just don't see that happening, but I think they should. I think they honestly should. But we'll see. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to edit this up, let's see what you guys think of this like kind of style. If you like Lala on the back here, she's sleeping. I think no, she's not sleeping. That's my new dog. I just got her a few days ago. Completely different life, I'll tell you that. Like this is completely different than what I've ever lived with. Like I've never had a dog in my entire life, and now we have one. And she's honestly the sweetest thing on this entire planet. So I'll keep you guys updated on how she's doing, and I'll keep you guys updated with the NBA season coming up soon, and the NFL season. We're gonna get into some NFL stuff too. Hopefully Owen can get back here so we can record a podcast again. I feel like we got a good mic here now, so we'll see how that goes. All right. Please like, subscribe, comment what you think. See you guys later.